Okay. Hello and welcome back to the Cake and Batter podcast. This is episode 2. I'm Cole and I'm here with my co-host Jake, and today, if you were watching the last episode, you would know that we are going to be talking about the Netflix original movie I Am Mother.
Yes, which is about a android, some years in the future, named Mother, and she raises a girl on its own after the extinction of humanity, or what we're supposed to believe is the extinction of humanity, rather, in order to repopulate the Earth. And when a mysterious woman shows up outside their door, kind of throws a wrench into their home life.
It should be noted that these are usually going to be, since we're going to be talking about and kind of criticizing and analyzing the movie from a story-based perspective, these are going to be filled with spoilers. So if you haven't
Yes, so
seen the
huge
movie,
spoiler warning.
yeah, so if you haven't seen the movie, please, it's on Netflix. If you have Netflix, everybody has Netflix, whether or not they're bumming it off of somebody or you have it on your own. We don't condone sailing the high seas, but, you know, there's always that, I guess.
Do whatever you want, but don't include us in it.
Exactly. So we're going to be talking about the entirety of the movie. So if you haven't seen the movie, please go watch it. Or if you
You
don't
could
care
probably
about
pause this right
spoilers,
now and just go watch it. Come back to the show.
yeah, and
If you don't care about spoilers, then whatever.
all right, so let's go with our kind of our general thoughts of the movie. So like what did you think the movie was going to be like before you watched it?
Honestly, I had no idea what it was going to be like. I had some sort of feeling like it was going to be kind of like a blockbuster type movie. There was going to be a lot of special effects, a lot of action, a lot of crap, but it was really such a low key movie with good camera work, good directing, good acting, and I don't know. I didn't expect it to be so artsy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, no, I can get what you mean. I think it was like when I first saw it, I kind of expected the same thing that you did. I expected it to be like this high budget,
Right.
extremely flashy, very action packed movie, cuz that's usually what sci-fi movies are these days. And I was
Right.
and honestly, after watching the movie, I was extremely surprised and very happy with how the movie turned out.
I was so I was really impressed with a lot of aspects of the movie. Two things in particular. The cinematography was gorgeous. Um, and I think that it's a testament to the fact that a lot of people say Netflix original films aren't very good, but this stood out above the rest, especially when it comes to the cinematography, because every single shot looked like a painting to me. And another thing that really impressed me was the use of practical effects rather than special effects and CGI.
Yeah,
That
that was
robot was something.
yeah, that's the thing that like I watched this with my family, and they had commented on. I said to them, I said, "Did you know that the robot is actually like a person in a suit doing
Yeah.
all of that robot stuff?" And they looked at me and they're like, "Well, that's lame." And I'm like,
Oh
"How
my
is
god.
that lame?" I'm like, "How is that lame?" I'm like,
I'm
practical effects are way more realistic than CGI if done properly. Yeah, some movies don't have very good practical effects, but honestly, in my opinion, if I were to make a movie like that, I would have went the same route as they did.
I would have too. It's really impressive what they pulled off with that robot too, cuz like you said it's a man in a suit the entire movie, and there's such little cues and little things in the movie that lead you to believe it could be CGI. Like there's a part in the movie that I love. It's a little thing, but mother is talking to daughter and behind the plastic wall, and telling her uh she's telling her about her laundry, and daughter says that uh she remembered to do her laundry for once, and mother cracks a joke, but she's a robot, so it doesn't sound like a joke. and she cracks a joke, and then she's like, "That was an attempt at humor." And then the little balls on the side of her, on the front of her face, curl up.
Yeah, and it looks like a smile.
Yeah, and then and daughter says, and daughter just looks at her, and mother goes that, and mother says, when she says, that was an attempt at humor, and daughter looks at her and just says, "You're getting better," and then she smiles more. The balls go up again.
Like that, like the expressiveness of Mother as a character, despite being a robot, is something that I like. It's those little details that you don't notice when you watch the movie if you're just a casual moviegoer.
Right.
But seeing those small details in the film really emphasizes like how much care and effort was put into it, and that's just what enriches the viewing experience of this movie.
It really does. I think you're right. This was definitely, maybe it wasn't, but it definitely came off as a passion project, because almost every single thing in the movie was just so taken care of, just even to the littlest degree, like the little balls moving up to form a smile on the practical suit of the robot. That was just something that, seemed like they took the longest time just for that 2 seconds of a little thing. That and how the robot ran.
Oh, that was like one of the coolest things in the world. And like I don't know why, but that always it always tripped me up because the run was still looked human enough as but it was still, it's hard to explain. It walked the fine line between living creature and automaton. And that's what made it so unnerving, because and even through the movie, the woman that shows up at the door doesn't show up until 10-15 minutes into the movie. So you have this first section of the movie, going into just growing up with this mother character, and as a viewer you almost kind of sympathize with and grow to love these two characters until the woman shows up.
Yeah.
And then you're forced to pick a side. And at the end of the movie, in my opinion, I didn't want to pick a side.
I have a lot of things to say about this movie, and one, I think I'm gonna start with talking about the beginning, because it leads into the ending. So the beginning shows a montage of the girl growing up and mother raising her, and I usually hate montages. I don't know about you. I usually do. But in this one particular instance, it was done so well. And not only that, it leads you to believe a certain thing that is then tossed on its head later in the film, about halfway through.
Yeah, and I think that I know I'm indifferent about montages. I think that in some instances they do work, in some instances they don't. But the reason that they used the montage for the beginning of this movie is that it was necessary to the movie itself, because how do you gain the trust of mother as a viewer if you start the movie when the girl is older?
Right. So that montage really sets up, not your feelings towards the daughter, but your feeling towards mother, because you're seeing her care for the daughter. You're seeing her hold the baby, and you see her left arm and shoulder light up, kind of to heat the baby, which I thought that was really cool.
Just the overall design of mother as a character is just really visually pleasing to look at.
And to make me feel characterization for a robot as it was a person, that was a hard thing to do, but it did get through to me. So I think Mother Mother actually had the most characterization out of any of the characters, believe it or not.
Well, yeah, I think it's just because Mother is technically as much of a protagonist as she is an antagonist.
Yeah. So that kind of leads me into what I wanted to talk about next. So the woman shows up, right?
Yeah.
And daughter is reluctant to let her in because of what mother has told her about the outside, but she can't believe, like, why
There's
is there
another
this
person.
woman? Right. Mother's told her all there can't be other people, that everything out there should die. Even the rat that they found earlier in the film, they had to incinerate it because mother said it could have some sort of disease. And so when the woman shows up, daughter kind of has this, like, you see her begin to not understand everything she was told. You see just a little bit of her doubting mother in her mind, and you can see it through her eyes. Even in things like when she gives the woman water and she tells her to keep the mask on, but the woman's like, no, it's fine. But the daughter doesn't react. She just lets the lady take off her mask.
It's like, it's so weird to watch the pieces fall together, you know?
Yeah. I think the pieces, most films they lay little things, and then, like, in the third act they give you the twist and they say put all the pieces together. Here's the puzzle.
But
This movie is weird, and it gives you pieces throughout that you have to put together and around the halfway mark of the film.
See, the thing that I think I like the most about this movie is that it completely forgoes dramatic irony, right?
Yes, it does.
And that's what makes this movie special, because you're not just seeing things happen, and you're not seeing them happen and then knowing, oh, I know something the main character doesn't. Technically, you are the main character. You are learning as much about the world as daughter is. So by the time daughter puts the pieces together, you're right there with her to figure that shit out.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So going off that, I love the kind of tug of war that there is between the truth of the woman and mother. And it really, when I say tug of war, I don't mean that figuratively. I mean literally. They are both trying to gain the trust of daughter in this film. And it's very unnerving to figure out which one is lying, because either one, whoever's lying, it's dangerous to her.
Yeah. And it's like, at points you want to believe mother, but then at other points you want to believe the woman. And when I was sitting through the movie, I was kind of thinking to myself, it wasn't until the big reveal at the end where you find out that every robot on the planet is mother.
Yeah.
It wasn't until then where I was just kind of almost hoping and praying that mother was one of a kind, built specifically to reignite the human race. But then when daughter finds that jawbone in the incinerator, like, I was like, oh no, oh shoot, like that just, it blew my mind.
There is something so interesting about finding that jawbone in the incinerator.
Yeah, because then it just shows that daughter wasn't the first in the bunker.
So something that I think that they did very well at the beginning, it tells you right at the beginning, days of extinction 001. So it's been 1 day since days of extinction, and then mother fertilizes the child and makes her the child.
Oh,
and then
that takes 24 hours, by the way.
Yeah, that's something.
Yeah, it's like a grow your own baby.
That
like
is some
those little
science
foam
there.
things. Those those little foam things you throw in the water and they like become bigger after a little bit.
Yeah,
it's like grow a baby. Just add water.
It's almost like chia. Chia. you know.
Yeah, like that was certainly strange. But then that makes you think, right? Like that makes you think, how the hell, like, how long has this been going on? Because, like you said, it shows days since Extinction 1. But does
Yeah.
that mean, does that mean that there were kids being born before and during the mass destruction of humanity by Mother?
Right.
Or was the first actual, like, successful child, aka daughter, was she the first one, was she created after Mother had decided, oh yeah, pretty much everybody's gone?
I so here's the thing. So something I spent a lot of time thinking about this film after I watched it,
Same
almost
here.
for like a whole day.
Yeah.
Like nonstop. Like even I was eating and I was thinking about it. I was in the shower thinking about it because it was just so interesting to me. I thought of something, and so clearly, because it's a robot, humans had to have made Mother,
Yes.
which means they had to have programmed her a certain way. And what they programmed her to do was to repopulate the Earth in any
No,
way
no.
possible.
If you heard what she said that her prime directive was to care for every living creature, or every living human. Like that was her deal. She was like, "Yes,
Yeah,
I take care of people." And then I think through her becoming more sentient, she realizes, well, everybody's destroying the world. Why don't I bend the rules a little bit and kill off all humanity and restart a new civilization that is bigger, better, and smarter than the last one? So
right.
then
So
she,
if you think about it, she really they had to have known the people who that's what I'm talking about. The people who programmed her had to have known that they programmed her to be machine learning in order to get to that conclusion. They just didn't know that she would go so far.
and it's weird, right? Because like I had the thought, for some reason I lost it. It's just strange that like, oh, I remember now. It's strange to think that us as people are on the cusp of this kind of technology, right?
Yeah.
And we have all these movies that talk about all this kind of stuff, but then again, what happens? Are we going to learn from our mistakes? How are we going to prevent like a Terminator like situation, like the Terminator and like Mother? How do we
Right.
prevent something like that from happening?
I think the themes of this movie are very well under wraps. A lot of movies, preach to you. This
Yeah.
movie had some very good themes and some very good messages that felt like a film and not like it preaching to us. And the great thing about this movie, it brought up a lot of issues uh in terms of themes such as morality, like when she's teaching daughter uh what she should do in certain situations if people are sick or if people are dying.
I
And
felt like that was something that was going to come back, but I'm not thinking back on the movie. I'm not even entirely sure that scenario, that type of scenario, ever did come back.
no, it never really presented itself, but I think the idea of the scene was to show the difference between daughter and mother,
Oh yeah,
android and
no,
human.
yeah, because the way that Mother thinks is Mother is very black and white, very concise.
Right.
She needs, it's either A or it's B. It can't be both. But
Right.
daughter sees things on a spectrum. Because when she was like, well, do I know these people? How do I know that I'm not
Exactly.
giving my organs to somebody who's going to kill and steal? How do I know that?
Exactly.
And that, I think that was just like, that was almost foreshadowing for for how what Mother did to the world, right? Because
Right.
she saw things in black and white and she judged them on just good or bad, or not even good or bad, productive or unproductive. That maybe one of those children was not as intellectually superior as she wanted them to be, so then she ended up killing that previous child. But what if that child was, you know, very diplomatic or something. You know, it had a way with words. You know, it's like that's the thing that's a question that it shows almost the major flaw of Mother as a robot.
Exactly. There I love thinking about just that scene when Mother's teaching about the 5 humans, and all of them are sick. One's about to die. You need to give the organs to the rest of them. You know, that proves that, you know, she's programmed to save as much of humanity as she can, no matter what, because she's killing the one person to save the 5 others. But Daughter says, wait a minute, what if that one person is the only good person out of those other 5?
Yeah.
And I think that's a testament to the rest of the film, because it sets up how Daughter interacts with the woman that comes in.
And like even the woman is is an interesting character, as in like what they're doing almost. Like what is their goal, right? They're led into this bunker, they're rescued by Daughter, but then they know that Mother's there. So what was the point of her escaping? You know?
So here's the thing. And I kind of put this together early this morning because I was still thinking about it. And this is just my opinion. This is just a theory. So she around the middle part of the film, Daughter opens up, you know, all the cryo chambers with all the embryos, right?
And she sees that there's ones before her.
Yeah, she sees that there's 3 missing.
Mm-hmm.
Her, and then there's 2 others that are missing. And that means that... So she then goes to the incinerator. She sees, you know, the one jawbone. So there, Mother killed one of them. Where's the other one?
I assumed that it was just incinerated.
I would like to argue it is the woman. So, hear me out. So, it then, when I was talking about the beginning, you know, it says Days of Extinction 1, you know, and then after that, it jumps. After the montage, it jumps to, like, day 13,000 whatever, right?
Yeah.
It was about 30, a little over 35 years or something. And, so, the woman shows up, and in one of the scenes, she says her age, and it's like, I think she said like 37 or 38 or something. That matches the time that we skipped over. So I'm assuming that she was the first one Mother made.
Oh, and then she escaped.
So I'm thinking Mother. So Mother says throughout the film that Daughter is special, and she is superior to humanity. In fact, in the end, she even says, you are superior to all other human beings before you.
And then the Daughter's like, well, give me a chance then.
Yeah, then... I'm thinking Mother concocted a plan for, I think it was like APX or something, wasn't it APX-1? I think that was the code name or something.
You're talking about like the first embryo.
Yeah, the embryos. I believe they were APX or something like that. So I believe that she concocted a plan once APX-01 grew up and said, "Okay, get out there. At this time, I want you to come back because Mother knew what was wrong with humanity, and she knew because she raised her what was wrong with that child." And very clearly, that woman is selfish. Mm-hmm. She's very selfish almost the entire film once she gets inside the ship. Even when she's trying to escape, she holds Daughter hostage and puts a knife up to her throat.
And takes her to her little shipping container by the beach.
Exactly. I'm thinking Mother did this knowing that she would even be selfish coming back on the plan to show Daughter what's wrong with humanity. And then come back and realize she was the one all along that should be in charge, that should be the one to help repopulate the earth, care for humanity, etc. That's just my theory, though. I don't know what you think about that, but
I mean, I didn't even that never crossed my mind until you've mentioned it. And
to me, that's what makes the most sense.
It does. It makes a heck of a lot of sense. I mean, like that. Wow, I didn't even think about it like that.
Yeah.
A question that I had actually was, if she's trying to repopulate the planet, why is she growing one baby at a time?
I dabbled at that question a lot,
and it's like, even so, with like the child that daughter is given, okay, you have a singular kid.
Yeah.
What's next? You're supposed to make humanity again. So, like, you wait until this kid grows up and then you make twins? But then that's like weird because they're both brother and sister. So how are they supposed to repopulate? Like,
I think she has to know if the humans will be as perfect as she wants them to be. Mother wants to know if those humans will be as perfect as she wants them to be in order to make the earth what she wants to be. I think of this story, the storytelling of this film almost feels like Noah's Ark to me.
How so?
So, Mother is wiping out the earth so that she can start anew.
And then the bunker is like the ark, and each of the embryos is like the two animals.
Exactly. That's what I was kind of thinking of. I'm thinking this is some sort of twisted version of Noah's Ark. What do you think about that?
Yeah, that's something I agree with. I could totally get behind that.
And if you think of it that way, it kind of helps you. It kind of helps you come to a decision of why she is making those babies one by one, because
she's testing them.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah. No, I understand now. That makes a lot of sense now.
I think I think Mother has kind of. So she's clearly machine learning, and she's obviously gotten to a point where she thinks she's the all-powerful android. And she essentially believes she's God, right? She destroys life, she creates life.
Yeah.
And I find that really interesting, because it's kind of flipping that kind of story on its head and making it a robot story, you know?
Yeah.
I think that she just wants them to be as perfect as can be, and she wants to be the one who said, okay, daughter is mine, I created her, and now I'm leaving it up to her. Because in the end, she's reluctant. After she's reluctant, she eventually gives in and lets daughter kill her, right?
Yeah.
I think that is. I think it was probably the most perfect ending you could have gotten with that movie.
Yeah, it's almost like my whole idea was like, before I knew that Mother was everywhere, I was in my whole mind, I was like, why don't they just kill Mother? And then just have the bunker for themselves and regrow humanity on their own. Because obviously Mother's fucking crazy.
Right. So that also helps my theory of Hilary Swank being the first child, because, you know, if she was fighting off androids this whole time, like she says she was, in the beginning, when she comes in, she shoots Mother twice with her shotgun, right?
It's not even like a shotgun. It's like a pistol.
I guess, whatever it is. She shoots Mother, right? Twice.
Yeah.
And she deliberately aims on the other side of her CPU. And Mother explains later, if she would have hit the CPU on the other side, she would have been dead.
Yeah, but I don't think we have to assume that like Hilary Swank is entirely accurate. That's the thing, right? Like,
True.
because if we knew for a fact that Hilary Swank was extremely accurate, like if there was a line or something later where, or like something in her journal that says, you know, like I never miss a shot or something, then
Right.
that would have that would have made the theory more sound. But again, that could just be chalked up to, you know, Hilary Swank being just a terrible shot.
I guess I see your point, but it's like it doesn't match up with her saying that she's been fighting these androids for like ever, you know?
Yeah, I guess so.
But and another thing that helps though is that so at the end, Mother shows up in the crate after daughter kills her original form, and then she kind of like switches into a different android, and then she
Well,
shows
Mother
up at the
is
crate.
all the androids, though.
Right, but like her specific CPU.
Yeah,
Clearly she switches to a different android body. And she
yeah,
shows up at the crate uh where Hilary Swank is reading and drawing. And Mother says she says something like you had a purpose, right? She says you have a purpose, and I hope you did that purpose. And then she shuts the door.
I just assumed that she killed her.
Yeah, I do too. So I think she killed her because she helped Mother get what she wanted, right? And then she's like, "Okay, you're still not the type of human that I wanted of you. So I'm going to kill you like I did with the other."
Yeah, I guess so.
Because clearly Mother is still wants to care for humanity, because there's a line in there when they first go outside and you see all the corn and the watering mechanisms.
Yeah,
You
so
know,
it's almost like what she's doing is she's like prepping the world.
exactly, because Hilary Swank said, when daughter says, "What are those?" Because she's never seen corn before, at least plants anyway, and those big machines watering them. And Hilary Swank says, "I don't know, those showed up a couple months ago."
Yeah,
So clearly she's prepping the Earth. Mother's prepping the Earth for another population.
yeah. It's I don't know. It's just like a lot to the whole movie just has a lot to marinate in.
It is. It's very heavy.
Yeah, and it's hard to like pinpoint a lot of stuff with the movie because it's so open-ended as a film, right?
Yeah.
Because we don't know what happens next. You know, that girl could go on and create the next human civilization, or what about that child? What happens if the child
Yeah.
is not not what if it's not up to what Mother wants, but the girl is fine with it? Does that mean that Mother kills both of them, or does Mother overpower the child and kill the boy, or whatever?
It's it's interesting to think about, because at the end, very clearly, daughter is going to be the one taking over, growing these embryos and making them infants and raising them, right?
Yeah,
She is the new mother.
yeah,
It's interesting to think about if she's going to take from what Mother did, and she's going to try and create the best human race possible, or is she going to raise all of them? It's something to think about.
I think it's just because it's such an open-ended like movie on its own, you know.
Do you think she's gonna kind of be the new mother, and like if something's not to her liking, she'll go and incinerate another baby?
I don't think so. I think that I think that that's like that's the one thing that I don't think is going to happen because the thing that Mother had that the girl didn't was it was compassion, I guess, for a lack of a better word. She had compassion. She has compassion for the child. It's not like, oh, you know, the baby is not getting all A's, better nuke it, you know. Like
Right.
the daughter can see parts of a person that mother could not. They can see that they can see what's deep down inside. Because with mother, it's all black and white. It's all face value. And daughter, and even going back to the scene with the doctors, going back to the scene, you see that, right? The daughter sees things on different levels. She sees things in a morally gray area. It's not, nothing is either right or wrong. Nothing is, this or that. There's always something in between. So daughter, even if the kid doesn't hit those high grades like mother would have wanted, daughter wouldn't kill the child because daughter knows true compassion and love and can see the child for what it is.
I see. Yeah. I can see that point. What would have happened though, assuming that my theory is wrong and Hilary Swank isn't a PX1 or she isn't part of Mother's plan? What if she never showed up?
I think things would have went on as normal. I think that what would have happened is they would have made another child, and I'm sure that either it could have went one or two ways. Either the boy grows up and is just like the daughter, and they just keep going through the cycle over and over again, or maybe mother realizes that the daughter, it could go, the kid could not hit those high grades, and the mother has to kill the daughter, and then maybe the daughter stands up and either A, talks the mother down, or B, they both die, or even after that, maybe the daughter runs away and mother just goes, oh, okay, bye. And then she just starts the whole thing over again.
Do you think that mother would have been able to brainwash her though into thinking like her? Like, we need to kill this kid though because it's not perfect.
I don't think so, because you see that going back to the scene in the classroom, the daughter sees things in a different way than mother because she is truly human. She has the capacity for deeper thought behind face value. And it's true. It all comes down to human nature. The daughter is a human. She's not a robot. Therefore, she can't truly think like a robot. She still has that compassion. You can't remove that compassion from a person within the context of the story, I suppose.
That's true, but there's also the scene with the rat, right? And mother has to incinerate the rat because there might be a contamination, and it might spread to daughter, and then also the other embryos. And daughter is reluctant, and she keeps telling her, no, don't do it. She finally incinerates the rat, but after that, daughter is kind of like, okay, I guess maybe she's right. So there's little things sprinkled in that.
I think that in the scene, I think that she feels remorse for letting that rat die.
She does, but it also seems like she has remorse, but also she understands why it has to be incinerated.
And it also comes down to the fact that, like, the rat maybe could be an allegory for people, but I mean,
how so?
Well, it's the same concept, right? The rat's contaminated.
Yeah.
The human is not good enough.
Yeah, okay.
So it could be an allegory for, killing a living creature, but then that just comes down to whether or not, it comes down to the fact that the daughter did not have feelings for the rat. So the kid grows up, the daughter is now attached to the kid. Do you think that the daughter wouldn't put up a fight if the kid had to die? Because this is the first time that if the woman never showed up, this is the first time that daughter has ever grown attached to another living creature that's not mother. So why wouldn't she put up a fight if the kid had to die?
That's a good point. Yeah, there's
so many levels to there's so many levels to this movie. It's hard to think of a concise what if scenario without coming against so many different variables within the whole idea of the film, you know?
Yeah, I this film just has so much to it. You know, the themes are overwhelming, in a good way, and the storytelling about it is just phenomenal. And I think this was clearly made as a message to say, where are we going as a society?
Yeah, I could see that. I
Because I think that it seems like I kind of looked up some stuff about the writer too,
mm-hmm.
and the writer is fairly new. Um, but it seems like he has a gripe about our society, and it definitely shows in the film.
What do you mean by a gripe?
It seems like he thinks that we're moving kind of in the wrong direction of the society, and that's what kind of inspired him for the film.
I think it also falls into like the idea of us as a society, right? I think it comes down to the theory of the great filter, right? You know about that? You ever heard of that theory?
No.
So, one of the biggest paradoxes known to our universe is the Fermi paradox, right? And that is statistically there should exist aliens, right? In our universe we have so many stars, so many galaxies. This universe is infinitely big. But if it's so infinitely big and there should statistically be enough planets that could house intelligent life. But the question is, where is it? Because every time we search for extraterrestrial life, we don't find anything. And then that was where the theory of the great filter comes in. And it's that when an intelligent species gets to the point where they can destroy anything, the society will always collapse on itself, right? That's
Okay.
why all great civilizations have died. And us as a society, we're getting close to that point. So it's dependent on whether or not humans can now control their destructive tendencies enough to create interstellar space travel. And
Okay.
that's the big question, right? Is like, is that where we're going? And that destructive property also includes stuff like AI. So are we reaching a point in our society where we're meddling with things that we probably shouldn't, that could technically just end the world?
You know that actually it actually makes sense in terms of this movie. That seems like that plays a big part because there's literally word for word mother tells daughter that humans would have destroyed themselves anyway.
Yeah. So it's the idea of, again, it's the idea of the great filter, right?
Right.
The filter being mother. Mother is the filter. She is the one, she was created by humans to hold compassion for human life. But then she in turn destroys humanity. Humans created her, so they ended up destroying themselves with the creation of mother. And that's the thing, right? And
Yeah.
that makes us think about why I personally don't think we should meddle with AI in any way whatsoever. Like,
I
AI
agree.
maybe can be a good thing, but I do not want to risk any kind of Terminator like situation like this.
I agree. I have uh, I also think that you know I this might be me reading into it a little bit too much, but you know I think the film is smart enough for me to be able to make this relation. But I said earlier that the it's kind of like a Noah's Ark type story, right?
Yeah.
And that mother would be the god character more or less. And daughter is uh or not daughter, the world is clearly society.
Yeah.
And daughter is basically the new society, right?
Yeah.
So the new society is here to take over from the old society that is destructive and killing itself. And the new society is killing Mother. It is killing God. And I don't think it's me reading too much into it to say that that's a metaphor for our society. I think the film is smart enough for me to be able to say that, don't you think?
Yeah, I guess so.
And that it really dawned on me when you told me what was it, the filter
The great
theory?
filter
The
theory.
great filter theory. That's what really just knocked it out of the park for me with that. I think I really do think that it could be a metaphor for that. I mean, I could be wrong, but I think that with all the other relations in the film, that it makes sense. Whether not in terms of, the writer being a certain way or believing a certain thing. I think it's literally just him presenting something to us as a viewer, right?
Yeah, and I think it's up to the viewer to draw their own conclusions by the end of the film.
And that's a really smart thing to do.
Yeah.
That's what good writers do, right? They present something to the viewer and tell them, "What do you think of this?"
Yeah, and I guess in my personal opinion, I think that's pretty much how the majority of movies should be made. You can make a movie
Yeah.
where you want to push an idea, and that's perfectly fine. But I think that the most engaging movies and the movies that really do the most are the ones where it's up to the viewer to decide what they want from their product. And I think that this should go forth saying that in any kind of storytelling medium.
I agree.
Because who wants to read a story where the whole story can just be brought down to somebody standing on a soapbox? I think it's in humanity's nature to question what's around them, what they know. Don't tell somebody to think a certain way. If you want them to think a certain way, present the facts that you want in the most truthful way ever, and let them decide what they should believe.
I completely agree with that, and I love what you said right there, and it's the great thing about this. Everything here applies to what this film is trying to tell us, and I think that this is. I think I'm gonna have to rewatch it because there's so many things with it I think that could be important to see. I think I know a few people I might even recommend the film to who don't even like sci-fi. And I think that's what sets this movie apart because it's a sci-fi movie that really blends itself into other genres.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Speaking about recommending, if you were to, do you think that we should rate movies, or do you think that we should base them on either recommend, see if you want to, or don't watch at all?
That's a good question. We should let our viewers decide.
That is true.
I think we should let our viewers decide. So you guys, we'll do something for this episode, but I guess why don't you guys tell us in the comments if you want us how you want us to do things, rate it, recommend it, whatever.
Or if you're watching this on any kind of streaming service like the podcast app on the iPhone, Google Play, anywhere else where it's not a video and there's not a comments section, why don't you follow us on Twitter?
Right, that's true. We could follow us on Twitter. We have our Twitter handles down in the description if for people who are listening on YouTube. And it'll probably be in the description on the podcast apps as well.
Well, technically, let's just tell everybody what the Cake and Batter podcast handle is at right now.
That is we could also do that. So for people who want to follow us on Twitter, go ahead and follow at Cake Batter Prod 1. and that is our great Twitter handle. You'll find a bunch of great stuff that we normally retweet about, but you'll also find some stuff about upcoming projects for us too, not only about our podcasts. And we can do some polls on there and see what you guys think of it. You can vote on there, and we'll take that into consideration for the next episode.
All right, well, I think this pretty much wraps up this episode of the Cake and Batter podcast.
I think for this one, let's just go ahead and say highly recommend, right?
Yeah, I would know, definitely. I would highly recommend this movie. If you were a fan of sci-fi movies that are thought-provoking,
Yeah.
and just overall very suspenseful and intense movies emotionally rather than action.
Yeah.
Definitely go onto Netflix if you have it. If you don't have it, steal it from somebody. But we don't condone that. But if get Netflix, watch I Am Mother, and let us know what you think about it. Because honestly, talking about this movie opens up a whole lot of conversation for a lot of various things related, not even to the movie, but just society and humanity and the thought process and artificial intelligence as a whole.
And if you guys are interested in more, don't be afraid to tweet at us either. If you guys have any suggestions for movies you think we should watch, good or bad, doesn't matter. We're into anything. So go ahead and do that for the few people that listen to us. And for the next podcast, we are going to do a special episode on The Hateful Eight.
Yeah, because the week after, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood comes out, and I think it's probably fitting that we watch a Quentin Tarantino movie before reviewing another Quentin Tarantino movie.
Exactly. So we will be reviewing, once again, The Hateful Eight, and it is on Netflix. I know it's a fairly long movie, but it is a phenomenal film. I'll just say that right now. I'll save everything else for the podcast next week. Anything else left to say, Cole?
No, I think that pretty much covers it. Thank you for watching the Cake and Batter podcast. I've been Cole.
And I've been Jake.
And we will catch you next time.
See ya.